4 weeks ago. You've gone from the Tottenham game, then on to you had Newcastle, but then we had Chelsea, PSG, Chelsea, Arsenal, Leipzig, and then Everton, who had a great start to the season, picking up, I think, 13 points from the first possible 15. So a tremendous start for Everton. They have dipped off a bit. But yeah, Ollie's kind of answered back after losing 2 games back-to-back in really, really crap circumstances in terms of, conceding a poor penalty against Arsenal and never really getting going, and then the 2 horrendous goals that we conceded against RB Leipzig. But like you said, Ollie's been saying some stuff. What have you been saying about Manchester United's squad?
Well, he says every time you play for United, there's a passion and a fight and the things you expect to see. You earn the right to win a game of football. You need that, and definitely against Everton, with or without fans at Goodison Park. And you still have to have that fight and passion, and that's a given. And he said the times are strange, and he goes on and talks about the coronavirus situation. He says without the fans, it's a bit different. But he says he needs to look at his players physically and mentally and how they deal with the whole situation. And I feel that is the major point. With the fact is that this has become like a benchmark game.
Yep.
In terms of the fact of where we are now and Everton are meeting at like a crossroads, so to speak. Because Everton have hired a manager that was seen as an elite manager before he was appointed. Carlo Ancelotti obviously won Champions Leagues, he's won league titles, he's done so much. They've got a great squad behind them now. They've invested in that squad and they've done that. And they've kind of done everything that they expected United to do, and they're now pushing on to go upwards. And if United lose, then that kind of leaves us thinking, where are United now?
And this is the point as well. There's a little bit he's mentioned there about the fans, and this is almost being... Has it gotten to an excuse now with Manchester United where we're blaming the fact that there are no fans? And he's used that a couple of times. He said that after the Chelsea game and after the Arsenal game that, we might have pushed on and got that goal in the Chelsea game. We might not have been, in the Tottenham game when we got beat 6-1 where we kind of capitulated. Do you think that without fans... And do you think that he can use that as an excuse, or do you think at this point United just need to get on with it and accept the situation like a lot of the teams have?
Well, I think it's a weird one because obviously he's now using the fans as an excuse, but we were playing well after lockdown when the fans weren't there, so it's kind of a bit of a weird one there. I mean, I take the point that United are probably affected more by the fact that, especially recently, the fans have been very vocal, especially in the away and now even home support of the team, and you always hear them getting behind the team and trying to get them to push on for goals and not cutting them any slack, so to speak. But it's a weird one because, one, everyone has to deal with it. Every team has that issue that they don't have fans, and 2, like I said, we were good at straight after lockdown without them. So it's a weird one.
Exactly. Now, one of the reasons that Everton have done so well at the start of the season has been Dominic Calvert-Lewin scoring, I think, a ridiculous amount of goals, got a hat-trick in one of the games. And it's weird because I remember doing Comment Club on the old Paddock, and I remember Steve Ronaldo being there, and I remember putting a comment up saying that Dominic Calvert-Lewin is better than Marcus Rashford, and it was the butt of all jokes, and it's ridiculous. But what do you think? He's been talking. I'll go through the quote that Solskjaer said. Not just Calvert-Lewin, the whole team set up. When Carlo came in, that's a manager everyone admires. Players, coaches, other managers had a fantastic career, and you start having a look. They didn't have a very good period after restart, but now you can see what he's been working on. Good pre-season. He's used restart to look at his team, and I've been impressed. Calvert-Lewin has been a part of that and is integral to their play. What do you make of Calvert-Lewin? What do you make of, he's not, I say, a proper number 9, but he's more of a hold-up player. He likes to get the gritty goals, scores more headers and things like that. He's one of those kind of players. What do you make of him, and do you think that he'll be a threat against Manchester United tomorrow?
I think what is understated about Calvert-Lewin is he's kind of taken up the mantle of what Lukaku was at Everton, and now he has a better team behind him, because obviously when Lukaku was there, Lukaku was scoring all these goals, but the team behind him was leaking goals and the midfield wasn't as strong. But he does everything Lukaku used to do for them.
Yeah.
And now he has obviously a creative outlet in Rodriguez. He has Richarlison, who's very good at linking up the play. You got Digne on the left, who won't be playing. I don't think he's playing.
No, I think he's still,
he's suspended.
He's back actually.
Oh, is he back?
So
he got the suspension. I think I couldn't remember if the suspension had been dropped. But yeah, there's a lot of team around him, and I think that's what he's done. Ancelotti has looked at that squad and been like, okay, they played really well when they had a Lukaku style player, and Calvert-Lewin has all those attributes, and he's done that, and he's been fantastic. He's been good in the air, he's been good in the ball, his movement's really good, and it has seen those sorts of links to United that you're expecting, because he's always, again, it's that sort of striker that
Yep.
United have been linked with and been calling out for.
Cam, can you scroll to that one for us, mate? So CalvertLewin, a great player, and always any player that does well that's outside of the top 4 clubs are going to get linked to Manchester United. Even players that are doing well are going to get linked, and no surprise that CalvertLewin, especially with the uncertainty around what we have as a number 9. Everyone, I think Martial has shown that he's a great number 9, but I still think with the Haaland rumours that maybe Ollie wants a more direct number 9. But moving on from that, Ollie had a bit of a chat about the Arsenal and Istanbul defeats, which, like I mentioned at the start, were dreadful in the sense that we never really got going in both them games, and the 2 goals we conceded in the Istanbul game were absolutely shocking. But anyway, so Ollie's had a chat, spoke about them. We had a very long late flight back home, so we were here early Thursday morning, landing in Manchester. Thursday was a day of tired minds and legs, and we couldn't do a lot. Today's been a bright sunny day in Manchester for a change, and the boys are ready for a reaction. We're all hurt. It's never easy and never enjoyable when you lose two games on the bounce. We know Champions League games are difficult. You don't mind when they outplay you, but we gifted them goals. And this is the thing that's so frustrating about this Ole Gunnar Solskjaer side in all of this in all of this run, even from the start of him coming in. The performances against some of the big teams and some of the big teams, especially Paris Saint-Germain, game plan perfect. The players did it very well. Scored a fantastic goal in Marcus Rashford and created the penalty chance, obviously. And then RB Leipzig, first half, we get 1 goal, but then the plan to perfection, we don't really give them too much. And then after that, we make the substitutions, kick on and do that. But then you have games against... Look, everyone's overstating how well Arsenal played. I think they defended very well, but they didn't play anything great. They didn't do great stuff. And then, to concede the sloppy goal in the penalty, and then this week, the 2 goals we've conceded, they're unforgivable. It's not like one player making a mistake. It's 4 or 5 or 6 players not covering things. So I think that, so frustrating. So he's said about a bounce back, but I mean, what do you think about the reaction that the players need to have this weekend?
Well, in terms of those 2 goals, and I'm going to make a point here, is like some people are blaming Solskjaer, and there is to a degree where you can say that is the team he put out and he should understand what they're doing. But when we play well and when everyone does their jobs, you do not see goals like that conceded. No. You see people filling in, you see people blocking it off. And those 2 goals against Istanbul were just 2 shocking pieces of play from the players. Yep. And the players should be the ones who are taking responsibility for that. And it should not be Solskjaer. Because the first one, how many people pushed up? Like it's a ridiculous situation where that is the sort of goal that you concede in the 90th minute of a cup final when you're trying to... It's the exact goal that Barcelona conceded against Chelsea with Fernando Torres.
Yeah, it didn't matter really whether they conceded or not kind of thing. And
yeah, exactly, because it was like they were like, we need to score. If we concede, we're out. But if we don't score, we're out. So it's that sort of thing. It's not 12 minutes against Istanbul Başakşehir in the 3rd game of a group stage. That's the situation. And then that 3rd goal, it was the second goal. It was a situation of everyone pushed up. Wan-Bissaka and Shaw pushed up, but then no one dropped to fill in. No one did anything. And it was like, and then you just saw the holes open up and everyone just didn't know where to go. But when we've played well, you've never seen that. No. You've seen people covering you. You've seen all that situation. So they're 2 awful results, and the manager has to take some blame for it. But then you also have to need to look at like those players on the pitch made 3 errors. Like Pogba made the error for the penalty, and then the defense made 2 errors for their goals. There was three errors that just marked those games.
Yep, I completely agree, and I mentioned it in my fan cam after the game that the team, the players on the pitch need to take some responsibility. They need to be able to lead. They need to be able to sense those bits of danger and move people about and take a bit of, instead of pointing the finger and blaming someone else, Luke Shaw was at fault for being too high up, but also it's the midfield's fault for letting that happen, for not pulling him back in. It's the defender's fault for doing that. It's the goalkeeper's fault for not spotting it and screaming at his players. It's also the manager's fault. It's everyone's fault, but it needs to not get to that point. They need to, react and just take a bit of leadership. And the thing is, the Roy Keane comments from Sunday, everyone kind of went, okay, calm down a bit. We don't need people flying into tackles and all. That's not what's going to change it. But what he said about leadership is United players need to take the ball in positions they don't want to take the ball. They need to do things that you don't need to do in the football pitch that isn't ahead of your jobs. And then from there, then you can express yourself. Then you can do all the good things that footballers should be able to do. But at this moment in time, they've not been doing it. And that has put Ollie under pressure, and he was speaking about that this morning on the future and potential. Obviously, the Pochettino rumours ramped up this week. A few different outlets saying that United have made contacts and stuff. But Ollie's been speaking, saying, yeah, you have to be mentally strong. There are demands on Manchester United players, coaches and manager. There are an expectation. We are the best and biggest club in the world, and you don't expect anything but criticism then. It's how you deal with that setback. And from what I've seen from the boys, they've been very focused. And on that, Ollie's had two... This is his third almost really bad dip in his time at Manchester United. He had obviously a fantastic run to start with, but the end of that season was very, very poor. The start to that last season when he lost Paul Pogba and Martial, and we were really struggling with the players. We had a very poor team out. He managed to respond to that and win some very, very big games with... You look back at it now, the squad that played in that Chelsea and the Tottenham and City games that we won last season include, Fred McTominay, who... You can argue whether they're our best players, but Jesse Lingard played both them games. He's not getting a sniff in now. Pereira was featured in those games. Dan James was starting in those games, and now those players aren't even getting anywhere near the squad, and he has to react again. And this consistency will only come, I believe, with a better squad and better players. And I think that. This next reaction has to happen, because I think that, like I've mentioned, this is his second big dip. This is his third big dip in form. I think if he doesn't get out of this one with a really good run of form, I think it might be his job. What do you reckon to that?
I feel like all the time that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been in the job, he's still been the interim manager in the media's eyes and in some fans' eyes.
Yep.
It's like even when he got the contract after the PSG victory, some people have always seen, well, he's only here until someone better becomes available. And then Poch became available and people were like, why is he still here?
Yep.
And then that was when he had the first little dip after in that second season when Poch was sacked. And then obviously after lockdown, he pulled it back and everyone was like, oh, it's fine and dandy. He's doing well. He's going to get the signings in summer. It'll be fine. Didn't get the signings in summer. We've had a bad season now and everyone's like, well, Poch is still available. And Solskjaer was never really meant to be the proper manager.
Yep.
He's never... Until he wins something or puts a cup or a
title challenge
on that sort of mantle for the United, he's never going to be seen more as the interim manager trying to stabilise it before we get someone better.
Yeah, I'm worried that that's the case. We got a comment there from Rowan saying Roy Keane got into big arguments with Ireland footballers when assistant manager and ultimately got the sack. Let's not listen to Roy Keane. Now, I agree that, look, I don't want... There was people in the comments for the review and in the watch along saying we need to get Roy Keane in there to do stuff. And I don't agree with that in the slightest. I don't think that Roy Keane's shown anything in management that is to suggest he'd be able to walk into a Manchester United team. In a modern dressing room, I think there's a big thing there and do anything. But
on a modern day pitch, the fact is Roy Keane would put a tackle and get yellow. He'd shout at the ref for giving it in and get sent off.
I do agree that there's... elements in what he said that were spot on. So I think that just because he shouldn't be the manager doesn't mean that he's not right. And I think that the things of throwing the manager under the bus, I don't think that's the case. I still don't think that there's quite the right mix of personalities in there in terms of having the confidence, and whether the players like Wan-Bissaka, whether Lindelof, whether Fred and McTominay can grow into that into that role and into them personalities, I'm not too sure. But I think we need to get more of that. We need a little bit more confidence. And we need the players that are confident. We need the players like Paul Pogba. We need things like the players like Anthony Martial, who are the confident ones, to start doing a bit of what, almost what Bruno was doing, not blaming people, but forcing people to do stuff. That's what needs to happen. There needs to be a bit of that. And then you've mentioned that the success that Ollie needs to bring in terms of like proving himself as a manager. Ollie was speaking about that and about his promises and the confidence of that. He says, yeah, why shouldn't be in terms of being confident delivering success? If I don't trust myself and values and stats quality and players quality, who else should? I don't look at one or two results and fall like a house of cards. It's a setback, definitely. There's been too much made of us not scoring against Arsenal and Chelsea. They've been nothing in those games. It's not long ago we were the best thing since sliced bread against Leipzig and PSG. You have to have that belief. Club has been very positive and shown me their character and strong leadership. I'm looking forward to Saturday morning. That's another matter we can talk about. And so I agree there that there is something there in terms of, they are only isolated results. The Chelsea result wasn't as bad as everyone said. Chelsea were... I can understand why he sat back against Chelsea. You kind of take that one out of it. I think there's a little bit there you have to say, look, they're a better team than they were last year. Yep. They're a good team. 0-0 against Chelsea isn't a horrendous result, but it's not great. Yeah. The Arsenal result, I think the performance rather than the result was more... If we'd have scored a couple of goals and it had been free-flowing football, I think everyone would have gone, okay, that's fine, they beat us. And then the next one, but the Istanbul result, I think it's the culmination of that. The Palace result at the start of the season, and you can have excuses to that. But at the same time, this is the whole point, is that we're now 7 or 8 games into the Premier League season, and we are in the position we're in.
Yeah.
If things don't pick up, he will be under pressure, and I understand that. And like he did say, the performances against Leipzig, PSG should give people confidence, and people shouldn't look over them at all. What do you reckon to that?
So in terms of what you said about the Chelsea game, I have a mate who's a Chelsea fan, which I know
it's not him.
God forbid, it's not Cam, no, but God forbid, I have a mate that's a Chelsea fan. But he was saying that in those first few games where Mendy was playing instead of Kepa, it seemed to be a case of the team was sitting back and trying to defend a bit more and doing the 3 at the back and trying to be a bit more solid in defence to try and give the defence confidence that they actually had a keeper who could save shots, which is fair enough. Like, the thing is, you've seen Mendy come in and he's kept however many clean sheets and he's done well and that sort of thing, but Chelsea was set up there to defend and not concede, and they've been trying to do that going forward and then bringing in their new attackers and stuff like that to bring the goals. You've got to look at the games against PSG and Leipzig, and that's the thing. This has been the constant theme throughout Solskjaer's management of he does it well against the big teams. So you're like, well, that's obviously he has tactics and he knows what he wants to do against those big teams. The fact is like he doesn't seem to have a tactic to deal with the smaller teams, which is what you've seen many managers in the past have. You've seen Klopp at the start of his reign, he couldn't beat the smaller team. You saw him in big games, you're like, oh, he's a great manager, he knows how to press, he knows how to do the ball. Saw him against small teams, you're like, how is he not scoring here?
Yeah.
Like, and it's one of those situations of, I feel like once we find how that team works and what's our best team against the smaller teams, it will all come together in that sort of sense.
Yep.
But it's just at this moment in time is we're looking at the table, we're 15th, we've lost, I think we haven't won a home game, we've lost a lot of them, and we need to now look at the team and be like, okay, where do we improve, or where do we move someone, or where do we go back to what we were doing before lockdown? Do we try and stick with a diamond? Do we go to the 3 at the back to shore up the defence? There's so much you need to just consider now, and I think an international break is good, but then at the same time, if we lose against Everton,
it'll be a horrible taste.
It'll be a horrible...
Just the final quote there. Ollie was talking about consistency as well, and saying we're definitely searching for consistency, something we need to improve on. We need a response against Everton, and that's the right response you need to have. We need to have a response, and consistency is massive. And I think that, we were praising Ollie, and I certainly was, that the fact that he could change the formations against PSG, Chelsea and Leipzig, and in all of those occasions they worked to some extent. Obviously the Chelsea game we didn't score the goals we needed, but to some extent we kind of nullified Chelsea. We did well, and we should have pushed on a bit more and done that. So that was the praise of Ollie, was that he was managing to be fluid and change this, but at the same time we need consistency, and I think that changing the formation every week and week out, changing the players week in week out isn't helping things. And I think that not only do we need the consistency of results, but I think we need a consistency a little bit more in the starting 11, and hopefully try and build the form for Manchester United. Cam, can you just pull up the comments? We'll just have a quick look at some of your comments.
The fact is, this is the sort of one where he said he was fighting back. He was saying the results create headlines and backdrop in the games that you win and you're praised, and that's a fantastic performance. Sometimes you lose and you're criticised, but it's not as black and white as that, because there's a lot of little things that could lead to you losing. Like, it could be like, we've played well for 85 minutes, but oh my god, for 5 minutes they blitzed us, and then we went from winning 2-0 or 2-1 to 3-2. It can be a situation of the whole performance is not awful, but you just didn't get the result at the end of the day. And I feel like that's what he's trying to say, is he's saying like Istanbul was 10 minutes where we got 2 massive defensive errors, and that was the goals. But then the rest of the game we were all over them. We tried to score. Martial obviously got the header. That was something that we don't really see. Luke Shaw putting in a cross for a Martial header.
We've not seen that for a while.
It's something we've not seen for a while. And Luke Shaw in his defence against Arsenal, putting some fantastic crosses. It was just everyone else was playing awful. But we're looking at the comments here, like,
There's a lot of comments saying the fan base is completely divided, saying it's either Ollie in or Ollie out. I think that, to be honest, the answer of all this is in the middle of all this. That, you know, Ollie might not be the right man. We need to give him time. We need to understand that the Manchester United job isn't the same as everyone else, because there's so many people. Why would you take Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as your manager? There's a lot of comments like that. But at the same time, we took the safe option in Jose Mourinho, and it didn't work, and it was someone that didn't understand what was going on. At the same time, there's a lot. The difference at Manchester United at the minute, and the difference between a lot of all these different clubs, is the board that Manchester United haven't backed our manager again, and it's kind of this. Look, yes, we are underachieving with this squad. I don't think anyone would say that right now. The performances from very good footballers isn't good enough right now, and that's something that the players and the manager need to take responsibility for. But I think this all kind of goes back to the fact that we ended the season quite well. We ended with a third place finish in 3 semi-finals, and then the transfer market kind of brought Manchester United back down a bit, and I think the mood around Manchester United changed, and I think that this is the problem that United are going to have, and I'm hoping Ollie comes out of this, drags himself out of this, puts in the good performances, and go on to achieve something this season, whether that be in the Premier League, having some kind of title challenge, maybe not, but maybe, you know, just being there or thereabouts. We don't need a challenge, but, you know, being there or thereabouts. I'm hoping that's the case. I'm not willing that Pochettino comes in tomorrow. I don't think that's the right attitude to have about it. If for some reason they decide to sack him, you know, I think there's a chance that Pochettino comes in and does very well, but I think we need to look at this in the long-term thing of how this has changed, and that this job isn't the easiest job to come in on. It doesn't matter what manager comes in. It's going to be ridiculously hard for them to come in and do.
So I've just saw a comment there. It was Jay Spence said someone. He said, "What other Premier League team would take Ollie as their manager?" And someone said this comment. I'm sorry I didn't catch your name on it, but it doesn't matter. He's United manager.
No, he is.
And if you look at some of the teams that are in the league that are doing better, like Chelsea, no one would have took Frank Lampard. Chelsea would have never took Frank Lampard if he wasn't an ex-player and they weren't trying to follow the model. There's some stuff like Arteta wouldn't have probably got a job straight into Arsenal if it wasn't for the fact he played for Arsenal, and also he was this Pep Guardiola protege where they were expecting it to be the same thing. Frank Lampard did the exact same, if not worse, than Gary Rowett at Derby with a Chelsea academy team. Yeah. And apparently that is now justified to get a Chelsea. Like we're saying, like some people are saying, oh, Ollie got Cardiff relegated. I'm pretty sure they were already getting relegated when he joined. Yeah. It's a constant argument of all these things that have happened in the past or all these things in the future matter. But the fact at the moment is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is Manchester United manager, and while he's Manchester United manager, you have to back him to win. You don't go, oh, I hope he loses against Everton so he gets sacked. No, why would you want that? You want him to win, and you want him to win the next game and the game after that.
And this is the whole thing as well, that there's people saying, you can say all that about the manager. You look at Jose Mourinho at Tottenham now, having some kind of success, looking very good, and then who would say why would you sack Jose Mourinho? Obviously he's someone that does well with teams in the Premier League. He's won it with Chelsea on 2 different occasions with 2 different squads. He's looking like a very good manager again against Tottenham, so why would you sack him? The reason is because Manchester United isn't the same as managing any other football club, and maybe you need something a bit different. Maybe you need someone that knows a little bit more about the history. Maybe you need someone that can relate things back to how things were and do things like that. But, you know, going away from what's happening this weekend, Manchester United play Everton in a big game. Whether you not believe that this game is going to define Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's season, we'll be back here tomorrow with Watch Along all the way through. So we will be going live at 11 a.m, an hour and a half before kickoff, and we will be doing. It's 12:30 kickoff tomorrow. So we'll go through. We'll have a pre-game show. We'll have Stephen Howson's opposition report. We'll have the team news. We will then bring on the watch along all the way through until the full-time whistle. So make sure, like it's just been said in the comments, you like this video, you subscribe to Stretford Paddock, and join us again tomorrow. Also, don't forget, Joe will be back here tonight with Late Night Live. So make sure you're tuning in for that. Casey, cheers for coming on this today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for everyone joining us, and we will see you all tomorrow. Laters.